Hello and welcome to Basecast 24. I'm Laura.
I'm Stefan.
And we are starting our brand new podcast for Starbase 24. Isn't that exciting?
It's certainly going to be interesting. I can still smell the fresh paint.
Indeed. So my full name is Laura Fawcett and my co-host here is Stefan Blakemore. And together we are part of Starbase 24 and have embarked on this mission to bring you a fantastic podcast. So this first podcast is just a little introduction to what you can expect from us in the coming months, years, tens of years, many years, hopefully. So we're going to start with just a little introduction about us. Stefan, would you like to go first? A little introduction about who you are.
All right. My name's Stefan Blakemore. I'm 33 years old from the London area of the UK. I've been into science fiction, specifically Star Trek, since as early as I can remember. I believe my earliest sci-fi related memory is seeing the rows of original series videotapes that my dad had up on a shelf in the living room. And my love of Star Trek just continued to grow, and when I started watching The Next Generation and becoming old enough to understand it, I was always sat right in front of the television at 5 o'clock on the dot every day after doing my homework, watching The Next Generation on Sky One. It was literally without fail. Like, every day, 5 o'clock, if my mum and dad needed me, I would just be watching Captain Picard save the day, like the true hero he is. So, yes, and I've been an active member of the Star Trek fan community for a good few years now. I'd say roughly 12 years, maybe. And I've been a part of Starbase 24 almost since its inception. And the Starbase has just grown from strength to strength, and I've met so many wonderful people through the Star Trek community, people who have enriched my life and given me friendships that I never would have imagined having when I was at school. It's something that I don't think I'd be able to manage without the connections that I've made with the sci-fi community. And I think that's about it, aside from the fact that I'm a huge computer nut and very much into technology and the occasional game. So I think with that out of the way, I will let you take over, Laura.
Thank you very much. That is really cool. So I'm Laura Fawcett, aka Janeway931 online for anybody who knows me. I'm 23 years old. Yes, 23. Everybody, one, thinks I'm older, and two, can't believe that I talk so much about Star Trek when I wasn't even alive when it was on. Or I was incredibly young when it was on. I've been a Trekkie and a lover of sci-fi for most of my life due to my father liking Star Trek and sci-fi, basically introducing me to it. He would just be sitting watching them on telly, and yeah, he was my best friend, so I used to sit next to him and be like, ooh, I like this. Unfortunately though, when I was at school I was severely bullied, but the thing that kept me from letting the bullies win, taking my own life, horrible things, was Star Trek and other sci-fi as well. But Star Trek in particular made me see that there could be more to life, that I needed to be strong, and also that the Trek community is the most supportive network I've ever known. I first went to a convention. It was a general sci-fi convention when I was about 12, but the amount of Trekkies that I saw and the Trek actors who were incredibly kind, generous to their fans was amazing. It completely opened my eyes, changed my life, made me stronger. So I really wouldn't be here today without the show or its fans. So thank you very much. I also do like other sci-fi and fantasy franchise. I don't just stick with Trek. You know, contrary to popular belief, I do like Star Wars as well. X-Files, you know, Marvel, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, all of those kind of things. A little interesting thing about me, I'm also qualified in acting, music and musical theatre. I'm a singer and a musician, and I love to as I said before, attend conventions and do cosplay. So if you're ever at a convention and you see me, please say hi. I have been on several podcasts before, but I've never actually produced one of my own. So this is embarking on a brand new mission. Yes, so engage.
Well said.
Thank you. We're just going to tell you a little bit about what is going to happen in the show, a little bit of the premise of what the show is going to be about. I'm going to hand that over to Stefan because he knows a little bit more about Starbase 24 than I do. So there we go.
Thank you, Laura. Well, Starbase 24 has been around for a good few years, and it has grown from strength to strength ever since it was first created as a small group of friends hanging out, sharing a love of Star Trek and other sci-fi. And it has just blossomed into something so much bigger than anyone could have anticipated. It's grown from, as I said, a collection of friends enjoying talking about the show and sharing barbecues together, to a massive collective, if you'll pardon the phrase, of like-minded sci-fi fans coming together to raise money for good and worthy causes. For example, one of the main events that Starbase 24 runs is the annual banquet, which is geared towards raising money to a couple of charities. Mainly, of course, is Macmillan Cancer Care. And everyone has been impacted by cancer in one way or another. Myself, I lost my friend Stephen a good few years ago. Actually, just a short while after the very first banquet. So it was almost 10 years ago. And that pain never goes away. It's difficult to deal with as just a friend of someone who's gone through cancer. And it's also, it's a kind of stress and terror that I couldn't begin to imagine for someone who actually has to deal with cancer itself, like directly. And I couldn't possibly imagine having to deal with that. But the people from Macmillan, they offer so much care and support, not only for people who suffer directly from cancer, but also from friends and family who are affected by it as well. Because it is such an awful affliction, and sometimes people do forget that cancer affects more than just the person who's unfortunately contracted it.
Yeah.
But Macmillan, they don't forget about everyone else who's affected by it. They offer support to everyone who's affected by cancer in one way or another. And they just give so much time and effort and help to, if not make things better, at least make the burden easier to bear. And it's wonderful, the work that they do. And Starbase 24 has, ever since its inception, worked to raise money for Macmillan Cancer Care. And over the last 10 years, the banquet has been able to raise more and more and more money each and every time. And that goes straight back into helping the charities that the group supports. And it's rather in keeping with the core values of Star Trek, coming together and working through a problem as a group, sharing the burden and the load of whatever problem that you have, trying to find a better way of dealing with the problem so that it won't be an issue in the future. Star Trek has got so many core values that, to be honest, you don't really see in other sci-fi franchises. You have multiracial crews on the bridge in a position of authority, and that was spearheaded by the original series, who in effect led the charge with that. They had a Japanese officer on the bridge, a Russian, a Scotsman, a woman on the bridge, a woman of colour no less.
Yeah.
They even had an alien on the bridge. And I've heard a couple of anecdotes where people said that Star Trek's creator, Gene Roddenberry, was completely out of his mind for going with that route. But it worked. And it was just a brilliant view of a potential future for humanity that thousands of people I know instantly fell in love with. I know it was the same for me, because it showed what the human species could actually be capable of if we set aside all of the irrelevancies and, in effect, pointless conflicts.
Yeah, I mean, Gene Roddenberry wasn't out of his mind. He was ahead of his time, which is, a big part of the show, so...
Very true indeed. But at the same time, you can't really fault the people who were at the studio thinking that he was completely nuts.
Yeah.
It's more a case of just seeing the end results and thinking, yeah, he was absolutely right. At the time, the studio probably saw the premise of the show and thought, this guy is completely crazy. We can't run this. But he kept at it, Star Trek got aired, and it created this phenomenon that is still going strong even today. It's 50 years since the original was broadcast. It's withstood the test of time, and not many other shows can boast that kind of resilience.
No, absolutely. Not many other shows can. So our show is one of those many, many, many shows that have been influenced by Star Trek and by the community of Star Trek and everything that it stands for. And we hope to bring you a show that really celebrates that, don't we?
Absolutely. What we want to do with Basecast 24 is we want to talk about what makes Star Trek a really innovative show, but we also want to talk about science fiction in general, how it's helped humanity progress and develop as a species, not only from a technological standpoint, but from a social standpoint, the kind of changes that have been brought about by science fiction films and TV series, how they interact with people, and there's so much that we can talk about with just the topic of sci-fi in general. It would potentially take us years to get through just a single series, so I hope you'll be willing to stick with it and listen to us go on.
For years. For years and years.
But, yes. The podcasts can't continue, though, with just us, which is why one of the core aspects is that we want fan involvement. We want to interact with anyone who listens to the podcast, be it if you have any kind of ideas, if you have your own stories that you want to tell about how sci-fi has helped you, or if you have just amusing little stories to give us a bit of a laugh and give us something to talk about. We would so love to hear from you, no matter what it is.
Yes, we would. Yes, we would.
So, a little bit early, but how exactly would they get a hold of us, Laura?
If they would want to get in touch with us, it would be at Basecast24 on Twitter and Facebook. You can also email the show, which is basecast24@gmail.com. Nice and simple, easy to remember. We do want to hear all of your ideas, all of your little stories, anything that you would like to contribute. Thank you, Stefan, for telling us about the premise of the show. We would also like to support and promote. I mean, you've already said Macmillan Cancer Care. That is a big one that we would like to support and promote. They often have little events that you can go to and also little things that you can do. I did the Brave the Shave. So we'll kind of let you know about other things that you can get involved with as well. Along with Starbase 24, the Klingon Banquet, and FCD events, Out of the Ashes in particular. I myself have been to a few.
Yeah, so have I. It's a fantastic event run by Will Ross and David Lindbergh.
Indeed, and the whole FCD team are fantastic, as well as the Starbase 24 team. If you get the opportunity to go to a Klingon Banquet or any of the FCD events, please do. Please also let us know. We will be at those events, hopefully. And please come up and say hi. If you've never been to one before, we do really, really recommend that you do. So as for our podcast, we will be trying to get them out online on the 15th of every month. This one starts a little bit later around Christmas because we wanted it to be a little bit of a Christmassy intro, didn't we?
More along the lines of a slightly late Christmas present, I'd say.
Yes, indeed. We've also got, well, we've been struggling a little bit with our motto, haven't we, Stefan?
Yeah, we've been racking our brains trying to figure something out, but nothing really seems to fit right.
No.
The story is that I ended up creating a patch for the Basecast 24 team, and it's also in keeping with some of the other Starbase 24 patches that I've been making and helping to augment and redo for the website. The problem is, most of the patches that have been made have also got a motto with them, and it's usually something noble like, "If it happens, we are there," which is for the news department of Starbase 24. The Starbase 24 group itself has a motto, "In unity there is strength," which is quite
the best motto ever.
Yeah, I don't really think it's possible to top that.
No, we can't. No.
But we're trying to figure out a motto for the podcast itself. Something nice, short, simple, easy to remember, but carrying that sense of purpose and nobility to it as well. And the problem is it's not easy. We've been racking our brains trying to think of a suitable motto for ages.
Mm-hmm. Ages and ages. So if you do have suggestions, or even just a little bit of inspiration you can give us, what can people do to enter into our little motto competition?
Well, what you can do is you can go to the Basecast 24 page on Facebook. You can find the picture of the logo as well as the attached comment about the motto, which is in effect a small competition, and you can like and share that post. Because what you do is, once you've liked and shared, you can put your motto into the comments, and Laura and I will go through the various different entries and try and pick out which one will be the motto for the podcast. We will reveal that on the next podcast that we do. And for the winner whose motto we choose, there is actually a prize that has been sorted out by Charlotte Kebbell, the head of Starbase 24. We haven't actually been told what it is, though.
No idea.
But I think it might be a little bit more interesting than a couple of bars of Latinum.
Although a couple of bars of Latinum I wouldn't say no to.
Well, true enough, but there's no real exchange rate for Latinum here at the moment.
Which is very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
True enough, I've got 2 bars here that I want to do something with.
Hey, where's my bar?
Well, I had to give something to the Ferengi Commission.
Oh, of course. Damn Ferengis. Anyway, so we hope that you have, first of all, liked what you have been hearing, that you like the premise for the show, that you are interested in what me and Stefan want to achieve with this podcast. And we really, really, really hope that you continue to listen. We will be available on Starbase 24 website, won't we?
Yes, indeed we will.
Links will be on the Twitter and the Facebook pages when shows are out. So there's just one more thing. How can listeners find you personally if they'd like to either follow you on Twitter or on Facebook or something?
You can search for Stefan Blakemore on Facebook. And if you want to look for me on Twitter, you can look for Orion Matrix 2015.
I love that name. It still makes me laugh. And if you would like to follow me or get in touch with me, I am at Janeway931 on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel, and I'm also Janeway931 Against Bullies. I have a anti-bullying support network on Facebook as well for anybody who may need the help. So thank you very, very much for listening. Me and Stefan would like to say, remember to live long and podcast with Basecast 24.